Hey guys, it's Nancy Pick of the Picks, and this one I'm going to be talking about tips for improving. I know in jazz bands you improv a lot, like more than you can imagine. Because I know when I signed up for one of my jazz bands, it was like, oh, I'm just going to play jazzy music. No, you improv about 90% of the time, and in order to do that, it is like stressful because there's no music in front of you. You don't even know what to play, what licks to play, what melodies to do. I mean, it's all just on the spot. You're making it up as you go. So I'm gonna give you some tips on how to do that. So let's get into that. My first tip would be to already know some licks and melodies. If you know some little licks and melodies, it helps with your improving because you can put them in different orders, you can rearrange the way it sounds, but still go along with the piece. Or you can also take some of the licks from the piece that you guys played as a group before your little improv. You can take one of the licks from there and put it in your solo, but don't do it in the same order, guys. Then you're just playing the whole thing yourself. It's solo. But take some of the licks and you can put that like that. I also found, for another tip, would be to use the scale. Obviously, there's going to be some kind of key signature in the piece, or if there is no key signature and your director's like, okay, you now improv, you can just take your favorite scale and use that key signature. But you use the key signature, the scale from the key signature, and you can just go up and down and play around with that. Go up a few notes, down a few notes, and then down even more, and then go up and go up even more. Like, I found that playing around with the scales is actually kind of cute sounding, and it sounds really nice, and it flows really good. Another tip is to not be afraid to repeat notes. I know when you're improving, this is like my biggest thing when I improv, is I could not do this, and I would know it, my director would tell me, but I wouldn't remember it. But repeating the notes, like play two B's and then play two C's, and like playing around with that really sounds nice, and that's what makes a good improv sound good. Because naturally, there's going to be some notes that are the same right next to each other. But whenever I played, I would keep going, I wouldn't repeat notes, and that's why my improv solos sounded really, really bad compared to other people's. Another thing would be to, oh, excuse me, I had it, but then I forgot it. Oh, don't be afraid to hold out notes in turn, too. Don't be afraid to repeat notes. I would do this too. I would just straight up use quarter notes and play the entire time. Mix it up. Use whole notes, use half notes, put quarter rests in there, put 16th rests, and play 16th notes and do little triplets. Don't stay one single rhythmic pattern. Don't be afraid to make it longer or shorter or what have you. Just don't be afraid to play around with it. Don't make it so strict and the same. Like, you want to make it fluid and maybe speed it up, then slow it down. Another tip would be to use the question and answer thing. This is a big thing in jazz if you are in a jazz band, or in concerts if you notice it a lot too. Question and answering, like pose certain different, by questions I would mean like play it where it ends nicely or ends abruptly, and then answer it by playing it really abrupt, or use the opposite of nice and smooth to abrupt and harsh, and play the harsher notes and like add in sharps and flats that aren't in the key signature. because that makes it sound like a question, and then you can play like this nice little doodad after it, and it'll be an answer. So don't be afraid to play around with that. That helps a lot in making it sound like a piece. Because the whole thing of improving is not to make it sound completely different from the piece. You want it to go with it, but you want to make it sound like you knew it. You know, you want to make it sound like you're reading sheet music in your head, even though you're not. Now, if you want to get really cheeky and do what I sometimes did, I would think of different licks and melodies to play with the different songs, and then I would kind of like memorize it and be like, oh, I'm going to play that next time. And you could tell when I did that because it sounded like 4 times better than if you just caught me off guard and told me to play. I'm really cheeky with that. But that like helps a lot sometimes when you're first learning. Another thing is, don't think everything is bad, because that was another big fault of mine. I would think that everything I played when I improv was just like, it was crap. I would think it was the worst thing I ever played in my life. But really, to other people, it sounds pretty nice. Because they're like going along with it, like, hey, this sounds good. And then afterwards, you're like, oh, that was really bad. That was a shit piece. That was horrible. And then they're like, whoa, wait, no, it sounded pretty good. Thank you. And so just play with confidence and think everything is going to sound okay. And if it doesn't, tweak it up a little bit. Mess it up and make it sound what it's missing or what it's lacking. Add in what it's lacking. And this video is getting really long, so I think I'm going to end it here. If you have any other tips, or you need any other tips, put it in the comment box below, and I will be more than happy to share or help you. Yeah, so I hope you guys have a stupendous day. I love you all. Toodles!